can unmute.
Niko mbele zako miguuni mwako, nimenyenyekea nikutafute, mahitaji yangu ninakuletea, mizigo yote nakuachia. Niko mbele zako miguuni mwako, nimenyenyekea nikutafute, mahitaji yangu nakuletea, mizigo yote nakuachia. Yesu, ijulikane wewe ni Mungu, ijulikane wewe waweza, ijulikane wewe unayaweza yote, mambo makuu, mambo ajabu, ijulikane dunia yote. Ninayo imani unayaweza, muweza yote unanitosha, musaidizi wakati kama huu, na kuamini na nyenyekea. Ninayo imani unayaweza, muweza yote unanitosha, musaidizi wakati kama huu, na kuamini na nyenyekea, na nyenyekea. Bwana Yesu, nguzo ya imani yangu wewe, ijulikane mwamba imara wa kujificha, nachotaka ni wewe tu, nachotaka ni wewe tu, haja ya moyo wangu Yesu, haja ya moyo wangu Yesu, kama yala tafutavyo maji, zaidi ya udongo mkavu uonavyo kiu kwa tone la maji, ilivyo nafsi yangu nisiposema nawe, ulivyo moyo wangu nisipoushiriki nawe, kama samaki nje ya bahari, sina uhai nje ya hema yako, nataka nisame kwa pendo lako kuu, nataka nisame kwa pendo lako kuu, na kuhitaji Yesu, nakuhitaji nachotaka ni wewe tu Yesu ni wewe nachotaka ni wewe tu haja ya moyo wangu ni wewe Yesu ni wewe haja ya moyo wangu Yesu sina mwingine nataka nikujue zaidi ya fahamu zangu naona nikuinue zaidi ya hitaji langu niloweshe kwa roho nikujue sura yako ung'ae usoni mwangu nataka nikutumikie kwa nguvu mpya kisichowezekana niwezeshe napopungukiwa nineemeshe nakuhitaji Yesu nachotaka ni wewe tu nakuhitaji Yesu nachotaka ni wewe Yesu ni wewe Yesu tu haja ya moyo wangu ni wewe Yesu ni mtupu bila wewe haja ya moyo wangu Yesu ni wewe nachotaka ni wewe nakuhitaji ni wewe tu nakuhitaji nachotaka ni wewe kila saa ni wewe tu haja ya moyo wangu Yesu ni Yesu ni Yesu haja ya moyo wangu nakuhitaji Yesu kila siku kila saa umamilifu Bwana kila siku na kila saa umamilifu Bwana umamilifu Bwana umamilifu Yesu kila siku na kila saa umwaminifu Bwana umwaminifu Bwana umwaminifu Yesu kila siku na kila saa umwaminifu Bwana umwaminifu siku zote umwaminifu daima si siku moja tu ni siku zote umwaminifu Bwana umwaminifu siku zote umwaminifu daima si siku moja tu ni siku zote umwaminifu Bwana kila siku na kila saa umwaminifu Bwana kila siku na kila saa Yesu umwaminifu Bwana Macho yangu nayainua, nibadilishe, unibariki, baraka zako hazina huzuni, ni za kudumu milele. Amina. Baba, naomba kubarikiwa nawe, sitoki hapa usiponibariki. Baba, naomba kubarikiwa nawe, sitoki hapa usiponibariki. Ukabadilisha Yakobo jina, ukamuita Israeli, maana yake kubarikiwa. Nami naomba kubarikiwa nawe. Ukabadilisha Yakobo jina, ukamuita Israeli, maana yake kubarikiwa. Nami naomba kubarikiwa nawe. Sitoki usiponibariki. Baba, naomba kubarikiwa nawe, sitoki hapa usiponibariki. Ninapokutazama utaninua, ninapokutazama utanibariki, ninapokutazama sitaogopa kamwe, sitoki hapa ila uguzo wako. Baba, naomba kubarikiwa alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Yeye ni Mungu wa majeshi, vita vikivuma ananipigania. Ameshinda vita vyote. Alipo huyu Bwana, mimi nimeshinda. Alipo huyu Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Mwokozi wangu, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Jehova Shalom, amani yangu, amenipa amani yake inayopita ufahamu wote. Alipo Jehova Shalom, amani ni tele. Alipo Jehova Shalom, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Mwokozi, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Mwokozi wangu, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Jehova Rafa, mponyaji wangu, aliponya magonjwa yote. Alituma neno, mimi nikapona. Alipo Jehova Rafa, mimi nimepona. Alipo Jehova Rafa, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Jehova wangu, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Mwokozi, alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, yote yawezekana. Alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana, alipo Bwana. Moyo wangu usilie tena, moyo wangu usibabaike. Unaye Mungu mkuu sana, unaye Mungu muweza wa yote. Aliingia rohoni mwangu, kanipa kutulia, kaniambia ewe mwanangu, usilie tena. Aliingia rohoni mwangu, kanipa kutulia, kaniambia ewe mwanangu, usilie tena. Ninajua shida zako, mimi nitazitatua. Bila Yesu mimi ni mtu bure. Bila Yesu mimi ni mtu bure. Katikisa Yesu mwanga wangu, katikisa nifariji kati vita. Yesu mwamba wangu katika njaa. Yesu mkate wa uzima. Yesu kimbilio, hajawahi kuniacha. Yesu mwamba wangu, mahali pa kujificha. Yesu kimbilio, hajawahi kuniacha. Yesu mwamba wangu, mahali pa kujificha. Anajua shida zangu, yeye anazitatua. Bila Yesu mimi ni mtu bure. Bila Yesu mimi ni mtu bure. Bwana wewe aliingia rohoni mwangu. Bwana Yesu kutulia. Kaniambia ewe mwanangu usilie. Aliingia rohoni mwangu. Hallelujah. Kaniambia ewe mwanangu usilie. Ninajua shida zako. Mimi Bwana bila Yesu mimi bila Yesu wangu. Bwana wangu aliingia rohoni mwangu. Kaniambia wewe mwanangu usilie. Aliingia rohoni mwangu. Kaniambia wewe mwanangu usibabaike. Ninajua shida zako mimi Bwana. Nitazitatua. Bila Yesu sikitu wewe. Bila Yesu ndani ya Kristo ninaweka sijui bila wewe Bwana wangu ningekuwa wapi. Ndani ya Kristo ninaweka sijui bila wewe Bwana wangu ningekuwa wapi.
Wewe zaidi ya wafalme, umetukuka juu ya miungu yote. Ninakutukuza, hakuna kama wewe duniani, mbinguni, hakuna kama wewe. kuwavusha wana Israeli katika nchi kavu, katikati ya bahari, kando kama ukuta wewe, hakuna kama wewe. Wamisri nao walipowafuata kuwateka tena, ukaangamiza katikati ya bahari. Ulijitukuza kwa Farao na jeshi lake, ninakuabudu, hakuna kama wewe, unaweza.
Umeinuliwa juu ya vitu vyote, umetukuka juu ya miungu yote. Bwana, umeinuliwa katika kiti chako cha enzi. Bwana, umeinuliwa ewe Bwana katika kiti chako cha enzi. Ewe Bwana, umeinuliwa Baba, umeinuliwa katika kiti chako cha enzi. Maserafi wako mbele zako Mungu, wazikabidhi heshima zao mbele zako. Wanalia, mtakatifu ni wewe Mungu, mtakatifu, mtakatifu ni wewe Mungu. Bwana, Bwana, ewe Bwana, umeinuliwa katika kiti chako cha enzi. Juu ya nguvu zote, umeinuliwa, umeinuliwa Baba, umeinuliwa katika kiti chako cha enzi. Makerubi pia wako mbele zako, hata nao wazikabidhi heshima zao. Wanazivua taji zao za dhahabu, wakiinama, mtakatifu ni wewe Mungu. Ewe Bwana, umeinuliwa, umeinuliwa katika kiti chako ni mimi kama sio wewe? Nimwabudu nani mimi kama sio wewe? Hakuna mwingine wa kuabudu ila ni wewe Jehova, ila ni wewe Jehova. Nimwinue nani mimi kama sio wewe? Nimwinue nani mimi kama sio wewe? Hakuna mwingine wa kuinua ila ni wewe Jehova, ila ni wewe Jehova. Nimsifu nani mimi kama sio wewe? Nimsifu nani mimi kama sio wewe? Hakuna mwingine wa kusifu ila ni wewe Jehova. Hakuna ila
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. As we wait for the MC, his name is Vincent Kimoso. I'd like to request one of us to start for us with a word of prayer. And I'd like Martha and Bore, if you can hear me, please unmute. Martha. Please unmute and lead us with a word of prayer. Martha, can you hear me? Okay, I think Martha is not able to hear us. I'll ask John Dadu to lead us with a word of prayer.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is John Dadu, and let us believe and pray. Dear God, you come before this afternoon. We do thank you for this wonderful opportunity you've given to us to converge here together so that we can learn one and two things from you. How we pray, dear God, that everything we do, our deliberations, our engagements, we pray for your guidance. May you give us knowledge, give us sound mind, that we may understand each and everything that we discuss in this place. Give us even the courage to execute and implement the same afterwards. We pray this shortly, trusting and believing. Amen. Amen. Over to you, Patience.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to KCPF Symposium. We are convening this in partnership with different organizations. We're really excited that you found time to join us and to be part of this. So at least I can see, I'll be trying to mention names here and there, those that I know. But what inspires me most is that many are people I don't know. We are convening the Family Symposium. We do this on 2 or 3 days before the 15th May. As you know very well, the 15th of May is the International UN International Day of Families. If you look at Article 45 of our Constitution, it says that the family is the basic and fundamental unit of society, shall enjoy state recognition and protection. So one of the things that we do at Kenya Christian Professionals Forum is that we bring together the different organizations working and focusing on strengthening and protecting the family. Here you're looking at Citizen Go, you're looking at Family Watch International, NCCK, KCCB, you're looking at EAK, and many, many organizations I'll be mentioning as we move ahead. So feel welcome, let's engage, let us make the most of this. Just to check if Christabel is already on, who is our speaker. This year we're looking at how we can nurture strong and resilient families is the theme for the year. And we have different people who will be speaking. We have Christabel Hawker from Stella Foundation, who will be sharing with us about the design and the challenge of feminism. We also have Anne Kyoko from Citizen Go, who will be talking about God's design for the family, specifically focusing on the LGBTQ agenda, its advancement, the challenges, and what can be done. Families are grappling with this, and what should we be aware as Christians, and more so Christian professionals. Then we will take a small break where we will just reflect on the questions before we transition into our last sets of speakers. We will look at the media, and we are leveraging on technology, making the most of Zoom and the different platforms. So feel welcome. So just to start us off, I am going to ask my colleague Patience to open for us with a word of prayer so that we can kickstart this. At least we are very happy that we can start our events and functions by looking up to him, who is the author and the source of families. Patience, if you could open for us with a word of prayer.
Okay, let us pray. Lord, we thank you for gathering us here today.
Is your microphone okay?
Yes, yeah, yes. Lord, we thank you for gathering us here today. We pray that you may guide us today, that you may lead us, and we pray that this symposium is going to be impactful. In Jesus' name we pray.
Okay, I am hearing amen. Okay, great. So My name is Vincent Kimosop. I serve as the Secretary of the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. I'm honored to be your moderator this evening. Just for your information, this conference or this webinar is taking place also through the online platform. Please share it out. Let's tweet, hashtag strong families. Let us tell a friend to tell a friend to be able to write something, and we can make this to trend. So with that, I would want to ask my chairman just to check if he's already in, Charles. Charles, if you could, if you're on, just to welcome these people and so that we can feel at home. Just checking if Charles is already here. Okay, I will bring the chairperson of the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum at some point. I will then move to the next session, which is ask Christabel Hawker to share with us about the topic. That is the challenge of feminism. God's design for the family, looking at the challenge of feminism. Just to speak briefly about Christabel, just share so that we know who is speaking to us. Christabel is a born-again Christian who believes in biblical worldview. She's passionate about building communication and a healthy mechanism for individual and families as a whole. The founder of what I am struggling to pronounce, it is called Coolcom. I will ask her to check if I pronounced it right. And then they have programs on sexual program. They also provide mentorship. She's also an author, and she spends part of her time talking about sex, sexuality, identity, and she does all this from a biblical worldview. What a wonderful person to start us off this evening as we get to hear more about this issue of feminism and what are its challenges to family as God intended. Over to you, 15 minutes, Christabel.
All right. Hi, thank you so much, Vincent.
Could you add your volume, Christabel?
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Oh, okay. So,
go ahead.
Let me just try and share my screen here. Am I able to share my screen?
I can hear you on my end. I hope also the team can, and those in could we show a sign either by a sign of thumbs up, just to show if we can hear a clap? Yeah, Sharon can hear you. I'm trying to see who else can hear you. Let's provide feedback if we can hear.
Okay.
Audible, but not screen share. So we will empower you to screen share at some point. But over to you, Christabel.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'd like to just say thank you to KCPF for the opportunity. Let me try and so at least people can see who I am. Yeah. I'd like to say thank you to KCPF for the opportunity to have this conversation. I think it's an important one. And it's necessary for us as Christians to see what's going on in the culture around us and how we can positively impact it for the good, for the grace of, by the grace of God, to actually teach our young people to grow and build up and build themselves up in a biblical world, on a biblical foundation. So, as you've been told, he said he tried to pronounce it. The program that I run is called Hulome. Hulome is Luya for Let's Talk, because my goal is to encourage parents, to equip parents to be the ones having these conversations with their kids. I work with young people, I work with families to kind of just bridge that gap, because more often than not, children are not going to their parents for answers when it comes to a lot of issues. And I think it's important to make sure, or at least provide the space where they can do that and build on a beautiful foundation. So I can't share my screen yet, but today the conversation is feminism. What is feminism? Should we be feminist? And why? It's from a Christian point of view. So feminism in its purest form can be described as the fight for equality of opportunity between the sexes. So we don't want there to be something that I guess men are allowed to do and women aren't allowed to do. So between the sexes, we want equality in its purest form. Many people, when you think about feminism, a lot of people think about that. The fight for opportunity, the ability for women to be able to compete on the same level as men across the board. Yeah? And so because we think of it in this kind of broad way, we more often than not don't see what the underlying foundations are of this of feminism as a whole. So I'm just going to present, then hopefully people will be able to ask questions as we move forward. And if you have any questions, I think you can, are we able to chat in this? I think you can put them in the chat or something. Yeah, so feminism, when it began, or what most people think about, is the fight for opportunity so that women have equal representation, or so to speak. What it looks like today is actually the fight for power. It's the breaking down of the family unit and the seeking to elevate ourselves, especially as women. And in general, many people would ask you, well, what's wrong with that? It is, if I could ask, there are a few people in the waiting room, but it's asking me, okay, so it's okay, I've sorted. Yeah, so if our goal is to provide opportunity, or so it seems, but in reality, what it actually is the striving for power under the guise of protecting and promoting the rights of women. Yeah, okay. Moving forward, because now you guys can't see my notes, so I hope you're following along. Now, feminism has come in different waves. Generally, you hear about first, second, third, and fourth wave feminism. And a little bit more, we're hearing about fifth wave feminism, but that one hasn't really set yet. But we have first, second, third, and fourth wave feminism. And first wave feminism focused on women's right to vote. And I'm saying this the world over, as opposed to just an African concept, but where we have statistics about this, especially in the West and Europe, and how the women started fighting in this space. So feminism, the history of feminism. And so women fought for the right to vote, women fought for equal education rights and equal treatment under the law. That's what they were fighting for. And those were some that are very specific, because women want to be recognized as full citizens, as opposed to being either someone's daughter or someone's sister or something like that. Yeah. So that first wave feminism was in the 19th and 20th centuries, and it was about again the fight for equal opportunities for women to be registered as full citizens on their own equal rights as men, the same rights as men. Second wave feminism came in the 1960s. And this one is maybe the one most people are kind of aware of, because in the 60s, there was the sexual revolution and women were fighting for reproductive health rights. And in that, we meant access to birth control, access to abortion, the fight for women to be able to take control over their own bodies. And I say this in quotes because it's a fight for something, like when people are fighting for abortion, it's a fight without responsibility. So you want to be able to indulge in your desires without actually taking responsibility for what comes after So it was reproductive rights and then rights of women in the work. This was in the 1960s, and many of us at least know about this or have heard about that, right? And then third wave feminism was now challenging gender norms. So what do we believe about men and women? What are the gender roles that are required of women and men? And how can we adequately or properly make sure that women are not being held down? Again, I say that in quotes because sometimes there's a premise which hasn't been proven. But so the challenging of gender roles, challenging of gender norms, what are women supposed to do in the home? Should women have children if they don't want to? Are they supposed to be submissive to their husbands? So challenging traditional views of marriage and family and sexuality and identity. Then many of us, because this was through the 90s, so many of us, there was a whole movement for girl power, and there was a lot of representation on TV, and so you'll see all of us, well, many of us, I grew up listening to like the Spice Girls, and so a lot of these people, a lot of the things that traditionally were held as the spaces for men and women were being challenged. And then also there was a fight against the gender pay gap, which is that men and women should pay the same amount of money for the same amount of work. So this was also coupled with this idea of women being assertive. So women were supposed to be loud or could be loud and should be representing people as well. And so that the women were loud, powerful, assertive, and that was a good thing. Yeah, so women are supposed to be seen like this, and that was supposed to be a good thing. And you could see the representation in TV and movies. So we listened to the Spice Girls, we listened to a lot of women in music, we watched a lot of TV shows, Sex and the City, Friends, a lot of things that also removed the notion that sexuality and morality were kind of closely linked, so that whatever I do with my body, because before in the traditional sense, a woman's sexuality, what you did with your sexuality also showed the kind of person that you were. If somebody wanted to marry you, if you were someone who was sleeping around, that was not something that was generally looked favorably upon. But now people are saying there was that separation. So my sexuality, I can experiment with my sexuality, I can do exactly what men do. And the problem with that is it didn't really fix the issue, but it did lead a lot of people down the path for women power and the differentiation between sexuality and morality. So what I do with my sexuality has no bearing on my morality. That was the premise. Yeah. And then we come to fourth wave feminism. Fourth wave feminism is the latest form, started early in the 2010s, and there was the fight for stricter sexual harassment policies and the push towards intersectionality and trans LGBTQ rights and social issues a lot more were focused on a lot more, or are being focused on a lot more now than they were in the past. So you'll see a lot of hashtags, because many of us now know, because this was basically the leveraging of social media and digital media to fight for women's rights, whatever you deem those women's rights to be at the time. Yeah. So now hashtags, many of us will recognize hashtags like Me Too, BLM, Black Lives Matter, Believe All Women, Not Without Black Women, or Shout Your Abortion. All of these hashtags are part of this movement. Yeah, it's an example of what they do. So you leverage the digital world that we live in now to fight for what we perceive to be women's rights, whether it's reproductive, even environmental rights, and things like that. So those were the four waves of feminism. I've gone through them really fast. We don't have too much time today, so I hope that makes sense. If there's any questions, again, please put them in the chat or something. One thing that we did see throughout this the rise and fall of feminism, the different times, because it has also been affected by different things that have happened in the past. So like when after the First and Second World Wars, there was a push back towards traditional female roles, that women should be back in the home and be taking care of their children and things like that. And then again, you see a rise later on. So there's a rise and fall. It gains popularity and loses popularity at different times. The one thing that's good to note right now is that few women define themselves as, or fewer women in Western countries define themselves as feminists, but more and more women in Africa, in the African context, are defining themselves as feminists. In the same time, as we have seen the rise and fall of feminism, the waves of feminism, there's been a dramatic increase in things like teen pregnancy, early sexual debut, fatherless children, rape and sexual abuse, higher and higher divorce rates, surrogacy and artificial insemination, high acceptance in rates of abortion, anxiety, and almost debilitating depression and suicide rates, and then bigger differences and wedges in the interaction between men and women. It's almost like we're moving farther from each other than closer together as we continue to fight, or as we fight under the banner of feminism. Now, it's important to note that correlation is not causation. So just because the two things were happening at the same time, like the increase in teen pregnancies, we can't therefore say it is therefore because of feminism. But we can ask, and it's important to ask, what role did this fight play in something like that? What structures have we put in place that have made it possible for young women and men to seek to experiment with their sexuality, as we'll hear more from Anne with the LGBTQ movement, or even not want to do certain things, not want to be held to a certain standard. Yeah, and all of these things that we've mentioned, there's a reason why there's been an increase, and it's important. It's a good thing to ask, why has this been happening at the same time that this other thing has been happening? So as feminism is on the rise, why have these other things also been on the rise? So what are we doing, and what can we do to make our society and our family better for our children as opposed to worse? Yeah. So if we are going to actually do something about feminism, then we need to look beyond the cause and seek to do something about it. Yeah. And if we hope to course correct at any point, we have to look at what feminism is, look at the benefits and the repercussions, or the bad aspect of it, and do something about it. Acting like it doesn't exist or it's just a good thing doesn't really help anyone, and women are usually the ones who pay the price. Yeah, but also being silent only serves to increase the momentum of this movement. And so if we disagree with it, we need to be willing to do something about it. So the underlying premise of feminism, okay, so I am not a feminist, and I think I'll explain why. In the African context, feminism it's almost like we didn't grapple with the reasons why, or where feminism came from, whether we believe in that or not. We sort of just adopted it as fact that we need to fight for this thing. And so there was the fight everyone knows about, the girl child. So the fight to build up and equip and empower the girl child, which has gone very, very well. And if we're going to be honest, it came from a place of need, because girls in the African context had been held back, for lack of a better word, held back because of certain aspects of our culture. But it's important for us to keep in mind that not everything, like we shouldn't accept feminism as a whole just because it's feminine, right? So we fight for the girl child, yes, and that's a good fight. But we can also honestly say, because we focused so much on the girl child, we left the boy child behind. And so one of the things that so many people are starting to ask, one of the questions we're starting to ask is, all these girls who we have empowered and enabled and built up, who are we expecting them to be in society? Who, if we were not building up the boy, who are they supposed to marry? Who are they supposed to interact with? Who are they supposed to work with? Who are they supposed to answer to? Like if that person is your boss, if he hasn't been equipped as much, it means that society is stunted. I've seen someone asking about sharing my screen. I'm not really able to share my screen from my end. Let me try. Okay. Just give me a second.
Wow, wow. Is that you with screen sharing?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just to, if you could, so that we can interact as much as possible, just see how to be economical with time. I would appreciate it.
Yes, yes. I'm trying to move as quickly as possible. Okay, so I'm going to just move to the okay. So we've talked about in Africa. So the example that in Africa, we've sort of adopted the premise of feminism without looking for the underlying factors that also come with it. So I think I'll explain. So for most of us, okay, I'm trying to get my head together now that I'm sharing my screen. All right. So for most of us, we can look towards who are our children looking up to? Who are our children looking up to, and what do they want to emulate? So often we can see what someone believes in if you look at who they admire. So a lot of the most popular people on YouTube and a lot of influencers, these are the people that young adults, teenagers, even preteens are looking to them as an example. So you'll see people in the Kenyan context, you'll see over 25, you'll see the Gold Network, Mungi Munyi, who is Yami Mami, Sharon Mundia, then even Life with Official Kinudia. If you look at a lot of these people, it's not that what they're saying is necessarily wicked, yeah. But if you ask them about the premise of feminism, they would be pro-feminism more than against. And so it's important to look at who our children are admiring and why, and then help them to challenge those beliefs. Help them to look beyond just the glitz and the glamour, I guess, or the popularity, and actually ask what's going on. Yeah. So the reason I'm not a feminist, as you've seen, feminism has moved and changed and grown over time. And while it has, and it's true that it has accomplished much, a lot of good things in its time, I believe that the underlying premise is false, and also it also leads us down the wrong path. The premise, which is false, is that men and women are the same, and therefore we should fight the same, walk the same, love the same, do the same thing in the same way, and achieve the same results. I think that in order to be able to do this, it would have to be an incredible we would have to have an incredible amount of social conditioning just to be able to do that. Because even if you take two girls who are raised in the same home, they have different personalities, they have different ambitions, different likes, dislikes, and all of these things. And a lot of the time we end up in different spaces and different places because we are different people. Men and women are different, and that's a good thing. Our differences are a good thing. We are created by God for his glory, in his image, and our goal should be to work together. Like I believe a good society is when we come and actually work together to build a community that is actually beneficial for everyone, as opposed to one being on top of the other. It's important to note that in the past we have had people who have taken advantage of women, but that doesn't mean that it takes away the role that God has given men in society and the role that God has given women in society. So while we fight for opportunity for women, and that fight is good, it doesn't mean that we brush aside men. It shouldn't be an anti-men situation or an anti-family situation. And it is often, if you look at the actual fight of feminism, it is an anti-family fight. Yeah. So one of the things I think it's important to note is that, okay, so I need to finish in just a few minutes. A lot of the time, we hear really good sounding slogans, and there's very good message from the pro-feminism side. But if you look beyond and you look a little bit under the surface, you'll see something. So it's pro-woman, but it's anti-life. They say it's pro-woman, but it's anti-life. They say it's pro-woman, but anti-men, anti-biological women, now anti-traditional women as well. They claim that it's about empowerment, and empowerment equals promiscuity, exploitation, objectification. If you desire something, it means you should have it. It's pro-pornography and pro-abortion, which are all things that break down the family structure, which we know is the basis of society. Now, I think often we hear a lot of these things and we don't know what to do. And so I think it's important for us to just remember that God has given us the ability to raise our kids in this time. Yeah. We should seek to teach our children intentionally, to be the example clearly, and to be informed and be involved. Many times we don't take the time to invest in consistent world information. And the message from the world is very consistent. When it comes to feminism, we are told constantly and clearly to put ourselves first. Put yourself before everyone else. Seek your happiness. You deserve it. And that level of self-glorification leads to the breaking down of family, leads to the breaking down of society. Because you can't have a society where no one compromises. We all have to compromise. We all have to be together. So as parents to be, as aunties and uncles, you have to teach your children and you have to be intentional about it. What do you want to teach them? Have you equipped yourself to teach them? And are you willing to invest the time and the money that you need to be able to do that? Be the example. They need to see you live the life that God has called you to live, right? You can't be teaching one thing and living another thing. And then you have to be involved. You have to be informed, yeah? So don't just say, oh, I'm going to take on the fight, and yet I'm not willing to educate myself. I don't know what's going on, or that's other people's problem. Because as Africans, that's one of our favorite things. We keep saying that's a problem for the States or everywhere else. If you actually open up your mind and look around, you will see the effect that this has. And there is a negative effect, and most often than not, the effects of feminism hurt the women they claim to be helping. All right, so I think my time is up. So I'll just say that we are called.
I was very generous with time, but because of the interesting insights that you're sharing, I think we need a all-day session. These are very new issues in terms of current and things that we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So let's pause there so that we can also hear more. But it's very clear that the world is changing and we have to be aware of this. It's impacting our faith. I would have loved if you'd have spoken briefly about your organization, what you guys do, and how can people reach you. If people have more inquiries, what contacts are there? Because when you organize such sessions, people come for different topics. If there are questions, are there, for example, FAQs? If people want to know more about this issue and how it's impacting faith, what can be done, how society is changing as a result of this. So if you could, let me market you for a minute, Christopher.
Okay, I'll put it on the screen so people can see a little bit about our organization. So what I do is I work specifically with families. Our organization is Fulome, and it's basically getting parents involved in this conversation. More often than not, when it comes to sexuality, identity, worldview, it's almost like we think it's the churches or the schools' problem. And so our goal here, or my goal, is to build a community that is willing to equip parents to be able to equip their children. And that's the work that I do on a biblical worldview, because it starts with us. If I don't know, I can't teach what I don't know. So as parents, instead of running away from the hard topics, the controversial topics, the difficult topics, we have to figure out what we believe and then how we're going to teach our children. We need to provide that for our children. So that's what we do. That's what Fulome is, equipping parents to equip their children. We have a monthly newsletter every month where you get, which costs 300 shillings per month. You can register, and we basically have 4 questions every month. And the goal is to get parents talking about these things you have 1 question a week that you go through